I think every time you move forward, and there's some days where it's just getting out of bed and brushing your teeth. Like if you're, you know what I mean? Sometimes, okay, I brushed my teeth. I didn't yesterday, but I did today.
Right.
Today I got out the door. Today I ate well. That's progression.
What's good, y'all? It's your boy A3. Listen to All About Progression podcast. It's sponsored by Ramen Studios. If you want audio recording, you want mix and mastering, you want photography, videography, you want venue space, you want your own podcast, come to Ramen Studios, man. Ramen Studios, the one-stop shop. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy A3. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Today we got a special guest, somebody I've known for years. But before I introduce her, let me introduce the special host for today. Introduce yourself, man.
How's it going? It's D2 Cool. Just call me Cool if you don't mind. But yeah, I'm here. It's my first time doing a podcast, and it won't be my last.
Yes, this is family. Tell what you do, man. Tell what you
do. Well, yeah, I have a little YouTube channel called Cool TV. We do walking talks. I have follow me on Instagram. I do a lot of fashion, a lot of changing clothes, doing different styles. And yeah, that's pretty much it so far.
Definitely check it out. So today our special guest, she's not only an actress, she has her own school, but I'll let her tell you about that. We have Laurie. Let's clap it up for Laurie.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. Yes, I'm Laurian Davis. I'm an actor and an acting teacher, a writer, published author, and my studio actually is now a production company. So I do travel a lot, and I teach classes in theater, TV, film, at all ages. My youngest student right now is, I think, 5, and my oldest is 106.
Wow.
Yes.
How's that go about?
Well, that happened purely by accident.
Okay.
I got asked to do a workshop at an assisted living, and they, first was very quiet, and they really didn't want to try it. So we started with singing and some acting, and they flourished. And then I started a creative writing group, and they've just wrote 4 children's books. I call them the OGTT.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they love that. It's so cute. They're like, I had a professional photographer come in and take their pictures, do their hair and makeup. And now they have 4 books, and I've got them reviewed by authors, and it's inspired them totally to sing and act. I have Libby, who's 106.
Wow.
She blows me away. She's like, I never thought I would be a published author and sing these songs.
She had 106.
Yeah. That's why you don't ever underestimate anyone.
Right.
But yeah, I feel that, listen, acting for me as an acting teacher, and we've talked about this in the past, how, creativity is like everything. And I kind of feel bad for people who don't use creativity to motivate themselves. I honestly, it gets me out of bed every day, no matter what is going on in the world, and I don't want to get up. And I don't want to keep moving forward. That's it. My grounding, my acting technique. If you get a really strong technique or a good teacher, which is really important, which I feel that I am, not bragging about it or anything, but I always tell people it's great to experience a lot of different teachers, but get someone who could really ground you in a solid technique that can get you out of bed as soon as you hit the floor in the morning and get you excited about life.
Right.
That's fire.
So with that being said, let's take it back a little bit. Who was Laurie as a child? How did she get into acting and everything?
Ooh, that was a good one right there.
A very long time ago. I tell this story quite often because I always, the sad part is, or I guess the not so sad part, is I used to tell my mom I wanted to be a model. And she would be like, because we're not very tall in my family, and I was a tiny little thing. So she'd be like, is there any other aspirations? I recently found an essay that I wrote about being a model. Okay, it didn't happen. So then I wanted to be a singer, and that kind of was just always there. But my dad used to watch movies, and that was, really, he left when I was very young. So I really didn't have that much of a relationship with him, but I know that he liked that. And I saw a film called Cool Hand Luke with Paul Newman when I was very young. And it was really, for a little girl, it's like, it's not the most appropriate movie, but there was a moment in the movie where he finds out, the character, Cool Hand Luke, finds out that his mother had passed away. And here he is in jail. He's on a chain gang. And he silently walks to the barracks where his bunk is and gets on the top bunk and just plays the banjo. I think I don't know the name of the song, the Plastic Jesus song, I call it. And the tears just automatically flowed. And I looked at my dad and I said, I want to do that. He's like, play the banjo? I go, no, that. He's like, what? And I didn't know it was called acting. I said, just that. And for some reason, it stayed in my head for the longest time. And he became a hero to me and a few other actors. So when my father left, I'm actually writing a screenplay about it right now. I thought, how does a child, my brother was a little bit older than me and my sister. How do you survive without a father? And I know it sounds strange, but I got so into using them as I told him became an inspiration. Like, what would he do? You know? And I was Robert Redford, Burt Reynolds, and Steve McQueen. I don't know if you ever heard of them because you guys are young, but they were big movie stars back then. And then I had like a little contest. And I learned so much about their lives and researched and did biographies, read biographies about them. I thought, this is what I want to do. I just saw how they changed people's lives. And that just inspired me. I know it sounds like a strange little story, but they became my role models. So anytime somebody was doing something bad or people were acting out, I thought, even though my mom was great, it was like, what would they do? How would they feel if I did this bad thing?
Right.
And it kind of spin doctored into wanting to learn more about acting. I love to watch movies, listen to music. I was a crazed little kid, teen idols and stuff. And for some reason, I think about it all the time, it gave me a sense of safety, a sense of security. So when people like idolize someone, I'm like, that's good because it's someone you could look up to.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a celebrity. Like, we were just talking about before how it could be somebody who loves what they do and they make something of it with nothing, with absolutely nothing. And they grow from that. That to me is amazing.
This is so crazy how like, when we're young, we kind of know what we want to do already.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I think you're born knowing it.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like, I was always talking to people and I loved animals and I wasn't afraid, even though I had that shy component. There was always something about it. It wasn't like people said, oh, you're going to be an actor one day. It wasn't encouraged. It was more discouraged. My mom's like, even when I was booking work, I would call up and say, Mom, I'm on the soap opera One Life to Live. It's going to be on tomorrow. She would be like, that's so exciting. When are you going to get a real job?
Oh, man.
What if you get married and he doesn't have money? Who will take care of you? I still, for some reason, bypass that even when I have no money in the bank because creativity is everything to me. And I think as a little girl, as a child, I knew that was what separated me from other people. I think, I had a big heart,
Was that difficult to like navigate knowing that you're different? Like everybody else, like I want to do 9 to 5, but you want to do something that may not be.
I feel like people that's different, it's easier to not even look at it that way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel that way too. Like, we all different in our own ways. So I feel like that doesn't even bother you with what people think. That's how I look at it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think, you know what? I agree with that, but there are still times, even at my age, that I'm like, I still stop and I go, why do you care what anyone thinks? Like, stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's in my head all the time. Just do it. Like, why are you second guessing yourself? Like, I look back at all the things I have done. And as a child, I was in a car accident. My family was hit by a drunk driver. So I was comatose, paralyzed, and I start again. And I truly believe again that watching movies, listening to music, those were the things that inspired me. I think it helps with survival. And then you come back to, well, I can't do this. Like my mom would say to me, how could you do that? How are you going to make money? Who's going to take care of you?
Right.
It never entered my brain back then. But it's still like, I love that people just write and sing and dance and do what they do because why care about what other people think?
Right, exactly.
And that's what's so magical about creativity. It does. I still think it does make us different.
Yeah, definitely.
I struggle with it all the time. I'll talk to people and I'm like, like they'll say something bizarre. And I'm like, oh, if you only knew. I took emotional work, body work, and all this intense stuff, and writing lyrics and writing. I read a lot of plays and monologues so I'll meet somebody. Like if you took my class and I can't find the right material for you, I'll write something for you. I just did it for my adult students, and I saw one of them say, she was like so shy, and she said, "This is me." This really hit home, and I said, "I wrote it about you." She's like, "What?" She goes, "You've only known me for a few weeks." It was just I could tell what she was going through. And I said, that's your piece. And it's fun to watch a student go, where did you find this? I'm like, I wrote it.
Right.
So what was like the first I guess gig that you got or something that you did that, made you be like, okay, I could do this.
Um, I actually, it's interesting because I was working I went to school to college, and I went for TV, and back then they didn't have the equipment they had. Broadcasting, it was called at LIU, CW Post, which it used to be called.
Remember CW Post?
Really, yeah. And they didn't have, now I wish I could go back there because we didn't have the equipment, we didn't have the TV studio and all that. And I went for communications, and had a very thick Long Island accent. So why in my mind I ever thought that I'd be on radio? Didn't have the right voice for that. So I ended up minoring in entertainment and public relations, and it ended up kind of segueing into entertainment public relations. And because of my obsession with Paul Newman, my professor was like, as I graduated, he said, I ended up having a minor and a major, and I got a 4.0, and all of that was great. So I wasn't even thinking about acting then, even though as a kid I loved it. My professor said, you're great, but guess what? You'll never work for Paul Newman, so let it go. It'll never happen. And
Wow.
I ended up getting a job with Newman's Own less than 2 months after getting out of college. But the company that was there was a lot of product PR and corporate PR. So again, doing something I wasn't sure I liked, but I ended up loving it. But it didn't work out, because I was still missing that creativity component. And I ended up working for another publicist who was very famous at the time, and it was all actors we represented, films and actors. So there I was with like Alec Baldwin and Meg Tilly and, oh my God, Colin Firth, his first movie, Valmont, and I'm watching all these actors, and they look like me, you meet them in person, and sometimes you're like, oh, okay, a little disappointed. They're not as tall as you thought, not as attractive as you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this. And I did an article. They let me do something even though I was a young publicist, and I was still an assistant. They gave me Brian Dennehy. And look, I still get choked up. And I got a magazine article, a cover for I think it was like Long Island Life. I can't remember the name of the magazine at the moment. And I call him up. He says, why would I do this? Like, he was kind of a little snarky. So I told him, I just got the job. And I was telling him, I had him laughing. He's like, what made you be a publicist? And I told him I always wanted to be an actor. We're in the middle of the conversation. He said, you know what? I'm going to hang up on you. I was like, what? I'm thinking I'm going to lose my job. He's like, you just said you wanted to be an actor, but you're a publicist. He's like, I was in my 40s driving a butcher truck on Long Island, and I started acting. Wow. You're young, you're in your 20s and your early 20s. Why not do it? And I remember I did the interview with him on the phone at home on the weekend, because he was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it was the only time I could do it. I had him on speaker, and my mom was like, oh my God, you're going to lose your job. So he told me to take an acting class, sign up for one, and after I took it, to call him back, and then maybe he would do the interview. And that's when it hit. I took a class, and everybody in the class wanted me to be their scene partner that night. I was like, what? Like the guy, like the popular guy in the class was like, hey, I don't know if you're continuing, you just took the one night, but I would love to do a scene with you.
Wow.
I remember driving home. It was in the middle of the winter on the Long Island Expressway with the windows rolled down, with literally icicles hanging off my hair, going, I'm an actor. I have my students do it. I'm like, I'm an actor. And that's really when it hit me. And then I worked there, but I took classes. And then after I quit, that's all I did.
Wow.
But I think being on the soap opera One Life to Live as an extra, I knew the stage manager used to come into my job at Baskin & Robbins. So I sent him a letter with a headshot and said, he's like, what? I didn't know you wanted to be an actor. I'd been on the set before doing newspaper articles for my school, because he was so nice to me. So just being on the set too was inspiring. But just the one day, just in the newsroom, just passing folders, hair and makeup, I'm like, there's no between the taking the class and then just doing that. And I auditioned. I tell my students all the time, I didn't know anything about acting. I just auditioned for things. I even had the nerve to get a monologue with a Southern accent. And I'm so embarrassed now. And I went from community theater to anyone who would see me. And I ended up getting Anne Frank at a local theater, the Broad Hollow Theater, in my 20s. and playing my dream role. All the kids thought I was 13 or 14 until they saw me off stage. And then I just didn't stop. Anyone who said, you want to be in it? Yes, 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 yes. I tell young actors all the time, I'm like, oh, I'm doing 3 to 6 plays. I go, just do it. I know you're tired, but don't say no to anything.
Right.
Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, because I feel
like
like a
that
lot
too.
of the actors, a lot of the movies, I should say, and things like that, they say we didn't know where it was gonna go. It just kind of
It's happened.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Well, it happens all the time, and I always tell this story too. That because we worked together some
Yes,
time ago,
YMCA.
yeah, at the Great South Bay YMCA, and I always say that it was good training because once you work at a Y, you can never take the Y out of you. It just makes you so much more observant and aware, and we're like hours and hours of first aid, right, and CPR, and all the classes and certifications. It just changes your life. But I remember a mom called me up, and she said she heard of me, and I was teaching acting classes there, and she said her son was very awkward and different. He was 4, but like 4 going on like 45. And all he wanted to do was stay home and play the piano. So I couldn't wait to meet this little boy. He came in and he was definitely different. And he was in my class and he was so bright. I couldn't believe he was 4. And after a few classes, I said to her, I never say this. I'm more about building confidence and learning how to be a better listener, part of a group. But your son's going to be a movie star. She was like, are you out of your mind? She was so mad. She said, I'm not even bringing him back. You're crazy. And then she started to say it. And he started to book work. And
wow.
And now he's Jake Ryan. And he was in Moonrise Kingdom with Bill Murray. I think he was maybe 7, a little bit younger, which won Oscars.
Wow.
And it all started with a chicken nugget commercial. And he's actually I got to see him last year, independent film called Lemonade Blessing, which you'll be hearing about. He was in Asteroid City with Tom Hanks and Scarlett Johansson.
Wow.
And when I went to Tiana Christopheridis, who was my director then at the Great South Bay Y, another amazing acting teacher, I said I wanted to put Jake in a play that I wrote. And they were like, you can't put a 4-year-old in a play. He's too little. I said, please, let me do it. The audience was gasping. So even something like a job as a single mom, I had to work 3 or 4 jobs while trying to live my dream.
Right.
So and people were like, "Oh, you're doing it at the Y, like a Y." I'm like,
well, I hope the mother thanked you after that.
Yeah, she always says, I tell Jake all the time, thank Miss Laurie, but which I'm like, oh, don't do that. But it was so cool. I haven't seen, and then I would brag about him in my classes all the time, like I do you. And one of my students, when they invited me, they did the film Lemonade Blessing in Massapequa. A young director, you'll hear about him, Chris Maloney, who's so talented. I go in there and there's one of my students, Alexander. And I was like, oh my, like how this, he goes, oh, she said, Jake, Miss Laurie bragged about you all the time. And now they're in the same film. And those are the things that you just don't know who you're going to come in contact with again. You know, so I say, don't badmouth anyone. Learn. I always say, even from, I try to tell my son, you could learn from inappropriate people and appropriate people.
Right.
Like take whatever you can, that even if it's just 1% or 0.5%, just literally get something from that. Always walk away with something.
Right.
Because at the worst times you're like, oh, I can't believe that person used me. They stole my ideas.
You're learning something. You learn,
especially in this business, right?
Yeah,
you know, it's scary.
Money, you know?
Yeah, it's true, and I don't know why that is, but it shouldn't be about that. It should be about love and kindness, and that's where it all begins. And that's why, for me, I think whatever creativity you do, acting class, if it's taught by the right person, body work, emotional is so good for you. And there's so many good books out there that really enhance. I don't know about you. There's times when I want to write, nothing.
Yeah,
I'll just sit in front of the computer like, okay. That's why I can't write under pressure, but it all of a sudden will start with one idea or one word. And next thing I know, I wrote a play.
Right.
Or I wrote a film script, or I wrote a poem. That's what I taught my seniors. They're like, how did we write 4 children's books? I'm like, it just started with us sitting around the table. And the first poem, I started with a rose. I put the rose on the table. They thought, like, why are we paying this crazy lady? I'm like, tell me something about the rose. And like, the rose is thorny. And it just built. And now that we're doing another book, a poetry book, because they've written so much poetry. Wow. So to me, that's inspiring. I don't care who I'm teaching, as long as you show up. Right. You don't even have to be willing. Just show up.
Now we talked about with the older people on the 106, how you taught them, how you teaching a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old to start acting. How did that come about too?
Right. You see, it's so interesting because my acting teacher who passed away wanted to start a studio with me, and I said, I want to teach kids. He's like, forget it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I don't like kids. It's just letting them be themselves.
Okay.
And letting them be involved. Like with a 5-year-old, you give them some games to play, and they don't even know they're doing it. And then you give them something to memorize, and the play becomes their creativity, and the creativity turns into, like, I'll have them write with me. Like I have my kids, they actually have written plays and films because of the play, just working off the other person, being in the moment. I do something called hello scenes where it doesn't even make any sense, but you put an emotion behind it, or you put an intention or a circumstance. Next thing you know, it turns into something, and it keeps going. So it's honestly could start with passing a ball or playing with scarves and letting them be loud. Not, when they're at home, be quiet, settle down. I let them just go wild.
Right.
And the creativity comes out of that. I'm not one of those teachers. I'm not yelling at my kids. I'm not telling them to sit down. Like when a parent asks me, I'm like, guaranteed your child, I don't want anyone sitting for more than 2 to 3 minutes. Everyone's either moving as a group or they're all getting up, and then they learn to watch each other.
Right.
And then listen, because listening, the most important thing in acting is listening, so that their listening skills grow. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's just about letting them take the space, seeing how they walk, how they move, where they're holding, if they have any anxiety. And like, everybody's different. I don't group kids together.
Right.
There'll be times I'll go home, like that when we worked at the Y and it was a big group of kids, I would sometimes cry because I'm like, oh, did I pay attention to so-and-so? Did I look at them? Like, I made sure I had eye contact with each child. And that's why I'm not a big fan of these musicals and plays, because now you have a 5-year-old playing a 40-year-old. What do they know about playing a 40-year-old? That's why I became a writer, because now I write plays specifically for kids. And then because I'm the lead, there are no leads. We're all equal. And my parents would say, but what? I go, that's okay. Let them, I'm not here to give them the life lessons of, you're not going to get the lead in your school play. You're not going to make it in, that's not me. It's let's do this. And guess what? Your dreams will come true.
Right.
Because they're going to have enough disappointment. Yeah. I'm not the teacher. I don't do that. I don't like doing that. I don't think it really helps either. Right. It kind of squelches a child's creativity. Then I'll hear, well, they never went back to acting class because the teacher was yelling, or because they never got the lead. And I tell them, it's not about that. It's about being part of an ensemble.
Okay.
That's so much more important. When you write, right? Sometimes you could write alone, but sometimes you need a friend. Mm-hmm. Or even if something happens and you've had a bad day, you have anxiety, and you're holding it, but then you talk to a friend or you talk to your cousin, right? And you release, and the two of you go back and forth, and you're like, oh, you feel, that's what acting feels like to me.
Okay.
It just releases it. And when you let a child play, whether they're 5 or teenagers, they have their whole other set. You can't treat a 12-year-old like you would a 5-year-old. But yet, it's interesting because a lot of the things I do with the kids, I do with my seniors.
Wow. Okay.
Right? That's one thing that inspired me about you working with you at the Y, is that you would speak to the kids in a particular tone. You wasn't yelling, like you already knew. But I already knew just by looking at you, you were very passionate. You cared about the kids. There's a lot of people that didn't. I'm not gonna say no names, but
yeah, no. Well, we can run a list, but we do it now. I remember most of their names now. But I think that was a hard lesson for me, like doing it, and still to this day, you talk to people, and like I was working in a school, and I tried to do that. I went back for my certification to make money and still be around children and be creative, and it was a regular classroom, and I'd sit in the lunchroom and I'd hear a teacher say, I hate that kid. I'm like, what? So I would eat my lunch in the car, like 0 below, and the principal would knocked on my window. He said, oh, Miss Davis, why are you eating in your car? I'm like, have you had lunch with those people? And, then he came in and said he would observe, but they're not going to say anything when the principal's in there. Like, right. I got in trouble for buying kids coats, or a child comes to me and they're hungry, buying them lunch. I said, yeah, this isn't for me. Yeah. And it would break my heart, because you'd see it in preschool. And I'm friends with a lot of them now on Facebook, and they're, oh my God, they're in college. Some of them are getting married, And I look back at some of the teachers that said something about that specific child, and now they're doing wonderful things.
Yeah.
You want to encourage. It's, like I said, love. I'm based on love. and it is real. It's not
Yeah.
fake love.
Right.
It's I took a lot of hits, many, and I'm sure I'll take more. But I'm not going to let anything happen to a child, and I'm going to make sure, no matter a child or an adult, to let them know. And listen, it's the same thing with seniors too. I've tried it. I'm like, how could you treat a senior like this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if someone, I've gotten in trouble, why were you there? Because somebody was asking for help. If someone says, can you help me? I'm going to go with that. Yes, I might be late for my next class or my next workshop, but somebody needed me.
Right.
And I'm not walking away from
And it
that.
has to be applauded. That can't be overlooked. Like, the world we live in is a tough, crazy world. So we
Yeah.
need everybody, well, more people like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I'll never give up. It is, listen, there's people especially during this time with everything going on in the world, I didn't know, I knew so many angry, hateful people. And I'm like,
It's scary.
yeah, I've walked away from so many people. I'm not going to lie, just stopped calling them. And they're going to hear this podcast and they're like, wow. But really people I've been close with and I thought I, loved and respected. And I saw certain behaviors. I'm trying not to get choked up, but no, not. And they know me. So I would say, like, why would you think that would be okay to say to me?
Right. Yeah.
And why would you think I'm not going to go at you for it? Now I just walk away. I'm like, because if I can't get through, I just go, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta love from a distance.
It's hard. Like I wish them well, but sometimes it's hard to wish them well though.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
understand.
karma. But yeah, the world is going backwards, and not on my watch, not in my class anyway.
Right.
Not going to happen. But I am shocked sometimes. That's why, again, I think creativity, writing, singing, acting, and then people were even putting that down for a while, like, I was like, what are you talking about? You go to see that. That's what lifts you up.
Right.
You go to concerts, you go to shows, Spotify, iTunes, all these music platforms. How could you say, that you're against it?
Right.
Yeah.
It's too much.
No. If I could, my perfect world would be just to be in a place 24 hours a day with creative people.
Yeah. I feel the same.
Right? You just feel safe. And, my son, like, he's a musician and a singer, and he'll call me up and be upset. I'm like, you got to find your people. That's why I say, find your people.
Yeah.
You could still love, be kind to everyone, but you need to have your base, because if you're at a job, right, a 9 to 5, and all those people are nasty, it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
And it does.
I think it's important to protect your dream and your energy.
Yes.
Who you surround yourself with, where you work at, the person you're dating, all of that can affect whatever decision you're trying to make.
Right. And back to you saying about, like, being around people that are just doing creativity stuff. I know that's the thing now, where people are, renting out a nice house and they all just living together and just creating stuff.
Right.
I know that's the new thing too. So
I love that. I want to do that. That was. I used to always say I wanted to, like, I wish I was a millionaire. I'd buy just a block, and build all these houses and put people in that. I think I'm actually working on some projects, hopefully in Patchogue and the Cinema Arts Center. And I just went there, so I'm going to be teaching some workshops there. And I was like, what is this? And they're actually like a little artist center that they want to grow. And there's artists living upstairs, like, not so that they can't pay a lot of rent. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I know they have one like that in the city too, where they don't pay a lot of rent, and it's all artists though. They all do paintings or they do some type of art, and it's in the city, and they rent is low just because they do that. It's crazy.
I think that's amazing. That's why I always say, why, God, didn't you give me the millions or the billions? I'm like, why you just send it this way, because the things I could do with it. Oh, that would be such a great. Oh, I love the house thing. That's a great idea.
Now, let me ask you a question. Because I feel like you're doing a lot, even though you don't have the money, but you're doing a lot, because I feel like just the amount of people that you're affecting with what you're doing speaks volumes right there. So what made that transition? Because, like, going from the YMCA to having your own.
It was I have to say, it inspired me. I did teach before that, before the Y, when I was married. My acting teacher and my voice teacher said, you should teach. That was not in my plan. It was to be an actor. So I built a stage in my house at the time. So I just put out an ad, and I started with 2 people. Two
Wow.
teenagers, and the two teens, well, they're probably like teens in their early 20s. They were absolutely stunningly beautiful. I was just like, oh no, they were literally models, and that's all they wanted to do. So I gave them whatever tools I could, and then next thing I knew, I had 6 people, 8 people, 15 people, 23 people. My neighbors were like, you can't do this. So then it grew into my first studio, which was Star Map in Hicksville. And then through my divorce, I lost my studio. So I really did have a studio before the Y, but then I was there and I was hired to do some acting classes. I said, what else can I do? And then I was a music movement teacher in the preschool. So I was teaching all different ages. And then I thought it's time for me, even though I've been hurt, I've been not going into it, but people have kind of said, I'll help you out. Not true. And then I didn't think I would start another studio, to be honest with you. And then I opened 3 Stage, and then COVID hit.
Wow.
But the inspiration came from the kids and seeing things I didn't like. And I like to use the word I didn't like because there was a lot of wonderful things going, but I didn't want to do the same musicals. Like I said, even my own son wearing a mustache, playing the mayor, and then the microphones, they're holding on to it. And those were the things I learned from. I'm like, I don't use mics. I teach my kids how to project their voice, because what if the microphone breaks?
Right.
My son's never been, they didn't mic him whenever there was not another mic. They're like, I can hear him out on the street. So to me, those are the things I knew I wanted to change. And not to say that I don't work well with others, but I would bite my, go, oh, are we really doing that? Like, let's not do that. And when they gave me my own camp, my junior camp, I was like, it was so cool. And I was like starting to feel that I could say, nope, we're not doing that. Don't talk to the kids that way. When I had to hire counselors and things like that. And I was very picky about it. And it feels so good when I opened 3 Stage just to have my own thing and invite you, visited it, have people come in that I wanted to come in, that I knew were going to give off good. Like, I would not let anyone in my studio or near my kids that didn't have good energy.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's okay if you're not feeling good about yourself, you're a little depressed, whatever. But I want people there around my students and my own son to have that uplifting energy. Listen, I could take the hit, it's me, but when it comes to teaching and that, like the space, and it's always the kids, it's not even where it is, the Great South Bay Y or wherever else I taught, it's the people, it's the children, because I'm still in environments that I'm like, did I just see that? Did they just talk to someone like that? And I'm like, and I've quit. I've quit many jobs, and they'll be like, oh, why are you leaving? I'm like, why am I leaving? This place is inappropriate. Well, don't you need the money? I'll figure out how to eat. No, I don't, because you're not treating the people right. And I'm going to go for love and safety first. And to me, that's what acting represents for me. And when I hear that people are teaching a class and they, don't know what they're doing and they don't have experience, I'm like, that's not acting.
Right.
Acting is being grounded, working off the other person, listening, being in the moment, and lifting people up. Not pushing them down.
Right.
Like some of my students say they want more direction. I'm like, I'm not directing. And even when I direct a show, I want to give the actors their movement and their time. It's just not my thing. Like, I want you to, I watch your body language and how you go, what you need. And then we talk about it. And usually I'm right, not that I'm this magical person, but they'll go, yes, how did you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a through line. Like you said, the more people you meet and the things that you know. But I know for me, that's why I teach workshops on my own. I got to do my own thing. And I see people in the corner. I also see people taking my stuff, but, I've seen that too.
Right.
My folders, I make folders. Everyone walks out with information that they can carry on for life.
Right.
Whatever I put in that folder, I've had students tell me they have like 20 folders or 30 folders where they're stuffed to the max with every piece of paper I ever gave them. That blows me away. Like comedian Chris Roach was one of my first acting students, and now he's on Kevin Can Wait, and he's done all this stuff. And one day I saw his folder. I was like, he goes, oh yeah, everything you've ever given me, it's in this folder. That's when I go, okay. Because I look back at my own stuff, and I'm like, I did that? And how? Where did I find the strength in the middle of a divorce to write 2 books or publish things or write songs or plays? But even from pain comes wonderful things. But I feel children are an inspiration. I love my seniors, all kids, animals. The only people the mean people, we don't
Right.
push them out.
Right. Now with Roach, like speaking of that, because I know you had a comedy show not that long ago, but
Yeah.
quite some time. How'd you get into that? Like, what made you want to do?
Well, it was really inspired by Chris, because when I had a studio called Star Map before all of this wonderful stuff, when I was still married, when I moved from my basement, I would interview students. I would sit at a table. I still do it, but really intense one-to-one, because I didn't want just anyone in the class. At that time, I didn't like need the money, like, do you know what I'm saying? I had support of my husband. And Chris came in, 6'6", and I was like, what am I going to do with this guy? And he said that he wanted to be a comedian. So I said, take my class. And that night, the first class, I said, oh, bring in your material, bring in your stand-up. He's like, I don't have one. I said, what? I said I wanted to be a comedian. I didn't say I know how to be a comedian. So I was like, uh-oh. So I said, well, just write anything up. He came in the next week, blew us away. I mean, I never laughed so hard in my life. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to be famous one day. And watching him go through the bad times, and working every comedy club in the city, and also working some bizarre jobs. Chris wouldn't mind me saying it. Like, he was going, we kept in touch and going back and forth, and he took other classes and did other things. And then when I opened my studio again this time, I said, hey, do you want to teach a stand-up class? He's like, I don't know how to teach. So I said, okay, just come. I'll do it. And I started to research comedy more. I've never done stand-up myself, but I read books and I researched and I watched Chris and I went to lots of comedy shows. And through him, I knew a lot of comedians. And we just did it. And the class was so popular. And our first group of people are still doing stand-up. Almost all of them. And we didn't know what
That's different.
We started with premises, and I learned how to write too. I've never done stand-up. I still want to, but I taught it, and it sounds weird. But Chris was there, and then I'll never forget, like probably our third or fourth class in, and he was always laughing. I went to go say something. He goes, I was like, okay.
Now he's teaching.
Yeah, now he's teaching. So
He's been on a few things. He's been on, was it King of Queens, right?
yeah, Kevin Can Wait. It was the other show that's
right,
where, and I remember the day I said to him, something big's going to happen. And he came in and he saw him and he booked him in the show. And one of my students, Alexander Jameson, played his son on the show.
Wow.
And he came he came into my studio. I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I know Chris and he talks about you and I want to take your class. I'm like, oh, I got a little TV star in here, in my class.
Right.
So, relationships grow. And listen, I inspired him. Now he inspires me. And then I started to do a lot of events around Long Island and for different people. And I get to hire them, which is nice. Say, hey, can you do a show for me? I can pay you,
Right.
And listen, I tried everything. And I tell other people, there's so much in this business. Like I was joking about you about wanting to teach rap, learn rap. You'll never teach rap. You don't want that. But like I had said to you years ago, my rap name is El Fitty. So, and I was like, and you gave me that name, and I treasure that because you never know. Like when I was talking to him, how old were you? You had to be 18. Oh my God. When I asked you, I said, what do you do so quiet and so shy? He's like, I'm a rapper. I was like, what? I was like, I need to know more about this, and I need to know more about it now. And you did. You inspired my son. My son was obsessed with you. And I said, what made him wanting to rap?
You know what it was? I was always comfortable around kids. Like kids are just, they're like sponges. They learn,
You were the sponge. They were like jumping on you, and you were just so calmly, like hanging on your leg, just walking with two kids wrapped around him, high-fiving them, like you were a celebrity. I know my son's like, I'm not going to camp unless he was with you. He did not. There was times like, I'm not going unless you was counselor. I had to please beg people. I'm like, he has to be with you. So don't change your age group.
That's my guy. Check out his music.
Yes, Severio. It's Severio, For Real Severio on Instagram, but he has a new band called Levon, which they did 2 songs, and they have a couple of new ones coming out. And he found his musician in Utah.
Wow.
He was so depressed. He was like, he always wanted to do live stuff because he plays a little bit of instruments and he has his own recording studio, but now he has a band. See, and it did rub off on my child too. I used to take him in the little bassinet thing, and I used to bring him to my classes. And I said to my acting teacher, this child is either going to it's going to help him or it's going to end up in therapy. And he came to my voice classes because I couldn't do it, as a mom. I had to take him with me.
Right.
And he would just sit there and listen. And one day he knew every song in my book when I was auditioning for musicals.
Wow.
My voice teacher was like, oh my God. He knew every word
Wow.
to every song. So it was like, he was 4 years old. It was like, okay, he's got it. But people like you later on inspired him, and he intensely watches and listens. Listen, you're an inspiration too, both of you, living your dreams, doing your YouTube channel and doing your music and podcasts. This is inspiring. And that to me is what creativity is about, because we don't know who's watching us,
Right.
whether they're a little one or 106. And I love when they say, you changed my life. Oh, I never thought I would do this. I should have brought the books. You would freak out if you saw them, what my seniors are doing. But even the kids writing, and then when you go see them in a school play, they invite me. I try to go to them as much as I can. Or they get into a college that they like. I had a student that ended up being a therapist, and she always tells me, if it was your class changed my life. She was like, couldn't even look me in the eye when I first met her, and now she's moved, she's getting married, and she's a therapist. It's like, you don't know how creativity, for me, it's made me survive, because there's been time I cannot stay in an environment, I'll admit it, where I see people not being loved, which is so hard to find.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I love plenty of jobs. I'm like,
I was trying to
can't.
think of them. I don't think I can write them down, because when people say to me, I'm nah, get rid of, get out. And I'm sure people are looking at me going, what is she doing? But if I don't feel like that there's love, like it's so hard. If I don't see people respecting each other, loving each other, lifting each other up, and you can feel it.
Yeah. I also don't like working at a job, and people, they don't know how to hide their feelings. They just hate being there.
Yeah,
just have
and
the
they say
attitude.
it. They say
Yeah.
it. It's like, sit in your car. I always say, sit in your car, get it all out. Don't bring it to work.
Yeah.
Because everybody has problems. Everybody has stuff. But once you walk in that door, like I always say to my actors, your audition starts the minute you wake up in the morning. Like, but what? The casting director, agent's not there. And I know I've made mistakes. I went on an audition, and it was a pretty big one, and I'm afraid of elevators. And I had a panic attack in the elevator. And so instead of just pushing through it, I talked to everyone in the elevator. And people are like rubbing my back, are you okay? I'm like, I got stuck in an elevator, blah, blah, blah. And I walk in to audition, and the guy that was rubbing my back was the agent.
Oh, man.
And he's like, you're really good. He's like, you're really good, but there's no way I can represent you.
Wow.
And I always tell it. So, and there was one time I ripped my dress as I walked in. So I was like, tried to put it together. I got this beautiful dress and put a paper clip. And thank God I had nice undergarments, but I leaned over the table and shook everyone's hands. And I did the audition, and they were like, loved your bra. I was like, oh.
Wow.
So there's things that you have to be aware of that you're not, because if you're not in the moment and you didn't start, you're like, yelling, you're in the car yelling at people and giving them the finger or whatever, or, you get on the train and you're nasty. You don't know who you're sitting next to.
Right.
And I know, because I know people who book jobs like that. They were like, I was sitting next to an agent or a casting director or a record producer. Don't underestimate who is sitting next to you.
Right.
And it could be the most bizarre place. It could be in Penn Station. You could be on the subway together. You don't know who you're standing next to.
Right.
And it's so important.
Wow.
To be self-aware.
Right.
But it's hard, like you said, at work, because then people are like nasty, and you're like, you want to go, but you're like, okay. I'm not coming back here ever again.
Right. My question is, how do you stay so mentally sharp? Because I'm the type of person, I'm very emotional. I'm being honest, very emotional. And sometimes I allow life and people to affect my creative process. Like if I'm dating somebody, not the person now, shout out to you, but there's people that'll be like, this is what you're doing? Like, what are you doing here? I need you to, I need you to get yourself together. When it's like, people may not understand the process. There's steps you have to take. Whatever
to get to where you gotta get to.
So it's like, my question is like, how'd you stay so mentally sharp to get to this point to deal with this life?
I ask myself that question all the time, because I've been really pounded down and hurt, and I don't get it, because I'm like, I'm a nice person, I'm a kind, loving person. Like, why is this happening to me? Or like you said, in a relationship, and I'm like, and I feel like I can't write. What I do is I write about that.
Yeah.
Even if I speak it into my phone, because there's a lot of like you fall in love with the wrong people, or you, like I said before, you're friends with people and you invested all these years and you find out that they weren't being truthful and honest with who they are. So for me, what I do is I whether it's negative, there's something called The Artist's Way, this book. You get up in the morning, keep a dollar store notebook by your bed and write just before you even go to the bathroom. I don't care how bad you have to go. You have to get your cup of coffee. Keep it right by your bedstand and just write out, I don't want to get up. I hate the world. People suck. Whatever it is. My girlfriend, da 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 da. I didn't get what I wanted yesterday. Whatever is going on. And then don't look at it. Don't ever look at it. There's a way to look at it eventually. Don't touch it. And that to me is a release. And same thing with exercise. As soon as before you get out of bed, do some stretches, hit the floor, do some push-ups, whatever you can do. Like for me, what I do is when I'm in really bad shape, I take off my shoes and socks, slippers, whatever, and I go outside. I don't even care if there's snow out. And I find a piece of grass and I just stand in the grass, like just connect with the earth. It's kind of like a cleansing. You have to cleanse yourself of those people because yes, they do. I don't want to blame anybody because it's really about us, but it could cause writer's block.
Yeah.
But I'd rather you write, like my son, I don't even remember the song he wrote, but it was like, I can't say it because I don't want it's bad words, but it was just the same words over and over again. He sent it to me and I'm like I always love everything he does. I'm like, what? And he did. He put it out there. I think it's on not Spotify. No. Where you put out your music.
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud.
Oh, yeah.
He runs SoundCloud. Sometimes I just yell it in my car because it.
And you know what's crazy? Those be the ones that be the hits.
Yeah.
And I see he's got a lot of downloads. So I'm like, who am I to judge?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like I'm the same way. I cry all the time. I'm a big cry. People say you're a crybaby. I cry at least once or twice a day because if I don't, it's going to hurt me. And if I have any kind of anger or like I hate the word hate, but if I'm hating on someone, that's the correct expression, it hurts me physically. And it does immobilize me as an artist. So my best advice is to do what you love. I don't even care if it's eating something you love, or treating yourself to something that feels really good. For me, get a manicure, or a pedicure. If there's nothing else, if I can't think of anything creative, go to the gym. Just walk around, look at nature, look at the clouds, look at the trees. Anything to reground you is important because there's always going to be those people that say, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Right.
And
Can't
then
please everybody.
Can't.
You can't, and you can't. But it's so hard to just please yourself.
Yeah.
It's especially when you're like, I'm like you too, and that's why I picked up on you way back when, that when you're a caring, loving person and you're an emotional person, and I think it's harder for men. That's why I said I talk about you all the time because you wouldn't expect it. You're working out. You're a good-looking guy.
Appreciate it.
You are. You got it going. You got everything going on. So like you were always so quiet. I was like, when you try, and then your art. You as an artist. Holy cow! Like who would know that? Like if I sent somebody something you drew, they're like, what? Like Severi, my son Severi, he's like, what? I go, yeah. He's like, no way. You inspired him with that too. So you don't know what you might be doing as a camp counselor. Trust me, you probably don't know how many children you inspired. And I watched you because I observed, because I didn't want my child around people I didn't think that wouldn't teach him good values. And he watched everything you did. So that to me is a grounding thing. When things aren't going well, that's what I try to do. I'll look at videos that I've done or my teaching or the things that I wrote. Even if it's reading a poem, I'm like, I did that. I wrote that.
Right.
I'm a good person.
Right.
I deserve happiness. Now it's like, okay, I deserve some money. But
Right.
it eventually builds up. You see how fast it goes.
Right.
You're like, huh? Wasn't I just 18,
Crazy. So with certain things, let's get back to the acting. Plays. How many plays did you say that you enjoy doing or writing?
Wow. I would say at this point it's more about, I don't even know how many I've written. But like I said, Anne Frank, probably don't think, sadly, anything could top that. But I need to start acting again. I haven't acted in a while. I've done some independent films, but it's time. I would love to be on Broadway. I'm not going to give up
Okay.
on that. I am a SAG-AFTRA actor, and I'm equity eligible. And I went to go do my paperwork during COVID, but COVID hit, did a lot of damage. And I just called recently, like, oh, you have to redo the paperwork.
Wow.
And they let you pick what you want on your paper, which is nice.
Now, what Broadway shows would you see yourself doing?
Wow.
If you,
Well,
you know.
I like classics. I would
Okay.
like to do a classic. I like drama. I think I could do comedy, but I did the female odd couple, I think, which is still also one of my favorites. I did both parts, and people didn't know. Like, I actually did it twice.
Oh, wow.
I played the female Oscar Olive and Florence, the Felix character, women. And it was one of the best things I ever did. So I like stuff like that,
Okay.
like different Tina Howe. There's certain playwrights I would like to do, and there's plays that I think I'm going to grow into.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I've always wanted to be Maggie in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, but that'll never happen. But there's just the classics. I love what they're doing now on Broadway, that they're bringing everything back.
Right.
And original plays too. Like,
Mhm.
I write my own. I want to one day be in my own. Like I said, I'm working on a few things right now. And I'm always writing for other people, but this time I actually want to do like a one-woman show would be a dream for me.
Wow. Okay.
Right. My sister would say, I'm going to see you up there for 2 hours. I wanted to play Emily Dickinson, and I actually had a director, and everyone's like, I don't know if I'm going to come to that. I was like, hey, you'd be surprised.
Right.
But I do like the classics.
Mhm.
I like really, just getting into something that I know is inside me that nobody else thinks. Like, I played, I did Spoon River back in my acting class, and I played a woman who murdered 8 of her husbands. I remember my acting teacher gave me the piece. I was like, I can't do this. I'm so nice. I'm so loving and caring. He's like, well, get out of my class. And he gave me a waitress. I had to do them in the same night. A waitress who had to sleep with men in order to take care of her son, and it was the most intense piece. But I was like, I'm neither of these people, neither of them, and ended up doing them and getting a standing ovation. And I think that's the type of parts I want to play.
Okay. The
Because
ones that
you
you
have
don't
to-
think you could be doing.
Because I was like, I would never harm a person, but to play, and then I had to learn Italian, and I had this wicked laugh at the end. I'm not joking. It took me 6 months to get the laugh. I was in the best shape of my life.
Wow.
I had to do crunches and take voice lessons. I couldn't do it now. Like, I have it memorized, but I can't do that to that extent. And people are like, oh, you gave me chills, wearing the old-fashioned gown and walking out, and people just being amazed, and then playing this waitress who is sleazy and scared, and that to me is like that. I want to do stuff like that on Broadway, where there's like so many different levels to the character.
Right.
I'd love to go see shows and watch what other people do too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's always impressive to show like your versatility.
Right.
Like, I just learned recently, the guy that did who was on Home Alone on the hotel. He was the same guy who did Pennywise on It, the first It.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Like, what?
Don't underestimate. And to me, it's like, even meeting you, in my head, I'm going, put them in a play. Like, it starts to get me to think of what else I could do, because the more people I meet, because I take the people that I have when I write plays, like I'll meet my kids, and everyone thinks I'm nuts. Well, what are we doing? I'm like, let me meet everyone, and then I'll write a play, and then we'll have something a week or 2 later, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is the perfect part for me, because now I got to know you.
Right.
Like, I'll meet you and talk to you, have a conversation, go home and write a play. You're like, what? So to me, that's why I want to get back into acting, because it's been so much about the teaching and nurturing, lifting other people up. Like, I know it sounds weird, but I want to find a me
Right. No, yeah, of
like
course.
that would do the same, which is hard to find.